Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited. Today we're bringing you Focal Point Request Intake and Orchestration for Coupa, the webinar. This is a Q&A session, so if you do have any questions while we're going through this, please feel free to go ahead and send them in the chat, and we can touch on them at the very end. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to your wonderful hosts. Today we're joined by Matthew Buckingham, who is our SVP Business Development and Partnerships here at Focal Point, and Zach Bolt, who is our SVP of Strategy and Operations. Thank you both so much for joining and chatting with us today.
Thanks, Maya.
Thank you, Maya. Appreciate it.
We're super excited. So this is a Q&A format. We have three main questions we're going to cover today. The first is, what are request intake and orchestration? The second is why Coupa customers need an intake and orchestration solution. And then, of course, third, what does Focal Point Intake and Orchestration actually include? So we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that solution and give you some opportunity to ask questions. So without further ado, let's jump into question one. What are request intake and orchestration?
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Go ahead, Rich, you take it first.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I think what we need to think about with intake and orchestration is often they get muddled up into the same thing. So people talk about orchestration and they think about intake, or they talk about intake and they think about orchestration. I'd just like to separate it out and say, okay, it is kind of two things. One is a task. So intake is getting a request. It's getting something into the system, whereas orchestration is actually going through the whole flow of that request and making sure that it happens. And that's how I kind of look at it. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, you know, I really love this breakdown here on this line that's been drawn. Such a brilliant take on this, where intake is like a point in time. It's a task, it's an activity that's done. And honestly, it's the really most tactical element of all this. It's basically just taking the broom and sweeping something in the door. And where it goes after that, the user may or may not know or even care. But then what really makes the impact in terms of organizational efficiency and what you get out of that is the orchestration, which is a much broader process-based sort of function. And so going to get I mean, it requires both of them in order to really automate your processes and to extract the maximum amount of value. You know, if you're coming off a Google form or something like that, obviously intake's gonna help you and make your life better, getting in the door, let you triage and sort of manage queues of work. But then when you really talk about stitching all of your technology together as a process, as a function, orchestration is required to do that. And that's how we at Focal Point really draw that line and the distinction between the two. That, to your point, people use the term sort of interchangeably, but they're not fungible. You know, they stand alone, but they also work together very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, you can have those different types of intake as well. So there's different elements that you could bring into the system with the intake, but without an intake, there's no point for orchestration. You've got nothing to orchestrate, basically. So, you know, if you're just bringing in something to do a contract, or you're bringing in a procure to pay, something somebody needs to buy, you need an intake for that, and that can come from various places.
Yeah, that's a good point too about intake so what you're collecting. It is a task, but what are we collecting? What are we taking into the organization? A lot of the folks that we talk to are procurement individuals, and they're like, okay, I have a point need. I need to intake a request for a contract or a supplier. Largely, it starts as a business need. Your user may or may not know what they need in terms of like vehicles, like a contract or a tender or anything like that, but they know they have a business need. I need a piece of technology. I need a consultant or whatever, right? And so, but beyond the procurement centric lens of that as well is the broader organization.
Mm-hmm.
You need intake because you have IT tickets. You need intake for people to make inquiries into the operations department or to go find their HR representative and information like that. So intake is broader than just the front door for procurement. It can really be a front end or a front door for for users inside your organization who need anything. This is your one place to go to jump off to get to any channel inside this company that you need. And so that's another key distinction in terms of intake. It's not just a procurement function. It is a broad-based organizational function that provides a good user experience for your entire requester community. And that can be any employee in your organization.
Yeah. And then the orchestration element's going to take it to the right place from there as well. So whether it's as you said, it could potentially be an IT ticket. It'll then whiz it off to somebody in IT to say, solve this. And that'll be that part of the triage. But I think here we're trying to focus very much on the intake for procurement to some extent, and specifically for Coupa, honestly. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a really good differentiation between both of these things. Obviously, like you brought up, Matthew, orchestration, it isn't only relevant to intake, but definitely focusing on that solution, that side of the solution today. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Now that we've made that differentiation, we're going to talk a little bit about why Coupa customers might need an intake and orchestration solution to go along with their existing Coupa investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off on this one, Matthew, and then I'll let you add some commentary to it. There's several reasons why Coupa customers and different clients have, or different companies have made different investments in Coupa. There's the core P2P, then there's the upstream solutions that you can purchase separately, and then you can go full source to pay, and they've got all their power apps and things like that. So different people have different starting points, and that sort of informs the upstream need. One of the major challenges that we helped to solve when we worked with Coupa to build a certified app here was the different applications, like some of the supplier sourcing, the contract solution, and the P2P. You needed to go through all these motions. Maybe you have a supplier that needs to be onboarded, a contract that has to be done. And companies, even if they've got investment in the entire Coupa source to pay stack, those don't all necessarily talk to each other. And there's no way to tie all the breadcrumbs together for the user community, like, okay, I've submitted my need, now where is it in the process? And so Focal Point has helped to solve that transparency and visibility, and that's one reason why that you would need that. A second reason would be you've got investments beyond Coupa. You've got Coupa P2P, but you've got another system for CLM, you've got another system for supplier, yet another for sourcing. And again, you need to tie all of these together in a single enterprise workflow, not only for the requester community, but also so that folks who have to take the appropriate actions to get those needs met, they all know when they need to when the gun goes off and when they need to start their work. And thirdly, I mentioned this point earlier to kind of segue into this topic a little bit, was that broader base. Coupa is one point of interaction for your requester or your business community, but you may have tickets that need to go to IT and other things. And so Focal Point can become a digital front door. If you need that sort of DFD approach for your business community, then that's why you would consider it, even though you've already got investment in a procure to pay or a source to pay solution suite. Matthew, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, we both love Coupa. We both used to work for Coupa at some point, not at the same time, but both Zach and I are Coupa alumni, so we love Coupa. But you're right. I mean, it could be that this is something that's outside the bounds of Coupa that we're processing here. It could be something that's coming in from somewhere else within the business. That doesn't even need to touch Coupa. But when it does go into Coupa, what we enable then with the orchestration layer, especially, we've got this into Coupa now. We enable that communication between the teams and the departments. So I see it as two different levels of orchestration. You've got the data or system orchestration, where you're bringing in different information from different systems, which could be Coupa, but it often is not all Coupa. But then you've also got the human integration or orchestration. So allowing people to communicate with each other, be it through Slack or through Teams or through email, heaven forbid, and other places. You can orchestrate all of the communication through our solution then, and use Coupa for what it's really, really good at, which is buying stuff and making sure the right catalogs are being accessed, and that the customer and the end user are buying from the right place. You can do all of that within Coupa and take it right through to purchase order and purchase receipt and everything else, but within the Coupa platform. But you're at the same time giving your users that access to information of where's my stuff, if you like. So taking away that level of effort that the procurement team, the human part of the procurement team needs to do, to interact with the end users and let them know what the latest status is and everything. So we can do the intake from that end user, and that end user can follow that all the way through within the Focal Point platform, even though the work is going on within Coupa a lot of the time. It could also be going on somewhere else. And I always get told off for how I say Coupa, by the way, just because of my silly accent.
But what an elegant way to unpack the topic of orchestration there. You talked about data orchestration, process orchestration, system orchestration, and then people. So it's a really, I think that's an elegant way to unpack that topic a little bit more. And because you need to be able to do all of those things in order to truly orchestrate processes. And if you step back away from it, the idea is to give people, the stakeholders, regardless of who that constituent group is, whether it's the requester community or the folks who are actually doing the work, either in an orchestration solution or in an external system, to give them all the best outcome and to help them know, paint by numbers, what do I need to do and when do I need to do it by, and so that they can all work the most efficiently and be the best version of themselves, which creates good outcomes for the organization.
Yeah, and it gives you that auditable trail as well at the same time, so that it's de-risking you now as well. So you're buying from the right place at the right time, and that you're using the right supplier and that you're using the right contract as well. And that's an amalgamation of the two different systems at that time, but we can track all of that and having that auditable trail within our system. And then after that, you can also start to follow those KPIs and understand, how are we doing? It's not just about where's my stuff anymore. It's how are we doing on those sustainability targets, on those financial targets, or whatever. And we can track all of that within our orchestration tool as well at the same time, pulling that data from Coupa and working with Coupa to make that accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you both for those answers. I think, of course, where's my stuff is always a relatable question for procurement, but kind of hearing how orchestration can help solve that and also go beyond and help procurement move into those strategic initiatives like ESG is awesome. So thanks for that thorough answer. We'll move on to topic 3 now, which is what does focal point intake and orchestration include? So I'll scoot us up here so we can all see. And let's just kind of get into what that solution is going to cover for us and maybe some of the benefits for procurement as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in, but Zach's the absolute expert on this. But what's included? We've talked about a lot of these things already. So that single front door experience. So you only have to have that one place to start. The flexible no-code intake forms. So your business team can set up those intake forms and also use our AI engine to complete those forms for the users as well. Configuring those orchestration workflows. I mean, it's easy to do. Zach, do you want to jump in?
Oh, well, you're doing a yeoman's job there, so not going to interrupt a man when he's doing a fantastic job. Yeah, this was, this app was a lot of fun for us to work with Coupa, to partner with, and to develop. We delivered so many certified out-of-the-box integrations that bolster and support the underlying data layer inside of Focal Point and the orchestration. So to Matthew's point, that having that single front door experience to jump off, and I need to create a request that's maybe some sort of service grouping or something like that, and we need to have all these different motions done before we're ready to cut a PR. Like very flexible, simple, no code intake forms. I mean, that's just core Focal Point stuff. Orchestration workflows that are fully integrated to Coupa core products, meaning that you can have a workflow that after a requester submits a request can run completely autonomously. You do your work in Coupa, set up the supplier, set up the contract, all that, and the workflow is just informed back and then advances automatically inside our solution, keeping people abreast of what's going on. So fully integrated, configurable workflows. Obviously, that enables the business community to do self-service checks. And then we support even if you have activities that you're doing, let's say inside of Coupa, but then other activities that need to go on in parallel that maybe are not even technology related, but it's stuff people need to do, you can do serial or parallel workflow processing with as many connected systems as you need. And then, of course, all of our integrations in the entire application are fully certified by Coupa, which means that you have the confidence that that's going to work just perfectly. In fact, we had just got a notification yesterday. Coupa's put out their new release, and so we have to recertify every time that Coupa puts out a new release and confirm that everything that we have built still functions properly as it's specified that it should. And we do that every time Coupa does a new release. So you can always know that you're going to have certified integrations that have Coupa stamp of approval on them. So that's what you get with Focal Point in terms of our intake and orchestration solution that's powered by Coupa and helping you to get the most out of that investment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, is there anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the other things that's kind of included is it's an almost a negative in some ways, but we include you can get away from using spreadsheets. You can get away from that complicated process and that process ambiguity as well. So suddenly you can do all of these things, but what's the benefit for it? The benefit is really, that ambiguity goes away. People know where they stand at any one time. You're not using spreadsheets. I saw something the other day. VLOOKUP is not a procurement strategy, and you can start to manage your tail spend and everything much better. So it's not what's included, but it's kind of included. But you've got all those things that you don't have to do anymore, which is awesome, I think.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's getting a little bit into the benefits too as well. But I think that's awesome. Thank you both so much. So real quick, we'll jump on to the next slide. I don't think that I see any questions in the chat. If you gents see any questions at all.
I do, Maya. I see one.
Okay, yeah. You want to go ahead and start taking that?
Yeah, I can. So I'm going to look up here on my other screen where I'm monitoring that, and I'm going to read this off. So someone's asking, what are the prerequisites to deploy AI orchestration successfully in a source-to-pay platform? So if you want to provide any more clarification as I talk on that, please feel free to do so. I'll take that, and I'm going to answer that question a couple of different ways. So first of all, when anybody comes to us and they want to start engaging in this broader topic of orchestration, the first thing that we always ask is, all right, look, what do your process flows look like? We tie everything in terms of configuration and deployment to business processes that we need to support. And then we let technology be informed by the support of a business process. So what does that workflow look like? What is the process flow? What are the approvals? What systems are going to be involved? All of that stuff to meet those needs. So that's kind of the first basis, getting the process flows that we're going to be automating. And then secondly is being able to get access to all of the data that is required to orchestrate all the systems. So confirming that the systems that you have investments in, I mean, Coupa's got a great API, but others, you have to check, can we actually do what we want to do? Sometimes you can get there, sometimes you can't. And so then you got to figure out, if you can get there, great. If you can't, you got to figure out, okay, well, what's the workaround here and how do we automate to the extent possible with the existing technology stack? So those are a couple of potential pitfalls and things that you sort of have to think about as you're starting out on this journey to embed orchestration like this. And I think of it like this broad-based workflow layer on top of your processes. What are we going to automate, and do the systems connect? And then lastly, I would add in the other teams. Procurement is often the custodian of policies that they don't own. And so in that being the case, you have to collaborate with a lot of different groups, third-party risk and with legal and those others. What is the organizational willingness of each of those teams to collaborate and be a part of a broader whole in terms of that orchestration layer? Do they want to adopt technology? Do they want to keep using their tools? Do they want to line up with a different process or whatever? So those are all things that you need to think about as you start trying to move toward implementation of a solution like this. The technology, honestly, is the easiest part of it. It's the process, it's the people you got to work with, and it's the external systems that you're going to be working together with, all taken as a whole, that ultimately inform what you're going to be able to do. And then you got to figure out how to make the best outcome of that. we have a very experienced, just at Focal Point, we have a practitioner-led services organization. So people that have been at Big Four Consulting have worked as practitioners, and they're like, that's going to work, and that's not going to work. Big differentiator for us, having these practitioners on staff that can help guide and direct. Matthew, I'm going to look at the chat panel in a second. I'm going to ask if you have anything you'd like to add on to that as I check for additional questions.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. We have our own professional services team, absolutely, and practitioner led. We like to ensure the quality of what's going on. What we are doing though is starting to work with partners as well to implement our solution. So if you've already got your Coupa partner, absolutely, we'll work with them to do that. Whether it's one of the big ones, Accenture or Deloitte or KPMG or PwC, or the smaller ones like the Cross Countries and Aquis and everything else. They're going to hate me for saying smaller, or the the very specialized ones as well. We can definitely work with them, and we would love to work with them to implement it at the same time as well. I see there's a couple more questions, so I'll both people I know as well. That's cool.
I'm gonna tee this one up for you. I'm gonna give you a softball, Matt. So the question for you here, we'll both take a whack at this, but I'm gonna give you a softball. So what does it mean, and why does it matter that Focal Point is a certified Coupa partner? Why should people care about that?
I think that's a really good one, and thanks for asking that. Why does it matter? It matters because it means that we're engaged with Coupa, first of all. So on the relationship side of this, it means that we're going to work together with Coupa to implement. Coupa's going to support us in this, and we're going to support Coupa in this all the way through. So we're going to work as a team. I think the other element of it is that, which is probably more on your side, Zach, than it is on mine, but it's around what we have access to as well. So Coupa is very, very accommodating to partners, to certified partners, on enabling them to do more than somebody just off the street. But Zach, do you want to jump into that around the APIs and stuff?
Yeah, I do. So Coupa's been a fantastic partner for us. They have a really open API, public API strategy. But as a certified partner in this intake and orchestration, we have jointly worked together to develop and bring to market additional capabilities that are available only for certified partners. And so what that means for you folks out here is you get access through Focal Point. You get access to do things with your Coupa investment that you cannot do otherwise. And so we're able to build and to model and to work closely hand in hand. Everything that you're going to get with Focal Point is fully tested. It has gone through the Coupa Solution Consulting team to review it. We have voluminous documentation on this, so that the package that you're getting out of the box is not only going to work, but it enables you to do things and extract value that you cannot get either on your own or with other intake and orchestration solutions that are not certified.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll jump on Jerome's question. Hi, Jerome. So yeah, do you provide the same level of integration with Ariba? Really good question, and other tools are available. Okay, so we understand that Coupa doesn't have the monopoly on procurement or business spend management or whatever we want to call it out there. Done a terrific job since they started, but Ariba was one of the first procure to pay solutions back in 1996, I believe. I did work for SAP as well, but back in 1996 they launched it. We're talking to some extent with SAP and with Ariba for sure. Can we integrate with it? Absolutely. There are open APIs available. We're not certified with SAP. It's not been until now, at least, a priority for us. We see Coupa as a much better partner for us at this point in time, for sure, and we'll continue to move down that route. But we can integrate with Ariba for sure. We can also integrate with Druzy, with Esker, with Jagger, with a number of the other ones that are out there as well. We just see that a lot of the Coupa customers out there have been relatively innovative over the years, so that's been kind of where we decided to focus first of all. Yeah, we can work with Ariba for sure.
Awesome. Good answer. So I've got one here, Matthew. I'm going to tee this one up for you. This is definitely right in your wheelhouse. So someone's asking, how much does it cost? And do I need a license for each user? I'll let you take that one.
Okay. It depends. The typical salesman's answer to that. It's going to depend on the size of your company and how many people you're using will be an impact on it for sure. It also depends how you have your Coupa set up already, to some extent also. We talked about the different types of intake you can do. So it can be as complex or as simple as you want, and the cost will be reflected in that. So it says here, anonymous attendee. If Mr. Anonymous, if you could contact me directly, I can talk to you about it for sure, and I would love to have that discussion with you.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to chat with you. There's a ton of ways you can chat with us.
Oh, there's one more.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
One more. Going back to the benefits point, what is the most significant value proposition that AI orchestration can add to the organization, and how procurement can build a compelling business case around it?
We didn't talk about AI. How could we?
Zach, do you want to take that? Jump into the business case or the value?
Let me read this one again. It's several lines here, so give me just a moment. Going back. Okay, let me read this out loud so for the benefit of everyone. So going back to the benefits point, and this is from the original question up above, what's the most significant value proposition that AI orchestration can add to the organization? And how does procurement build a compelling business case around it? So on the business case, we have an ROI model that's associated with our technology and its implementation. And so we can work with you on that and walk you through the levers and everything for anyone on this call who's interested in having a conversation on it. In terms of just the overall benefits that it adds, there are several. I'm going to start with the one that to me I think is the greatest one. So a lot of the business case for a solution like Focal Point is predicated on the idea that when you start orchestrating processes together and you start leveraging intake, ideally you're capturing additional spend that you're not already capturing, or at least you're influencing it earlier so that procurement has a bigger or more outsized effect on the money that the organization is spending. Inside the orchestration itself proper, though, you get this collaboration and the efficiency that is drawn. Our customers tell us that with Focal Point, their staff that they have in procurement, whether that's 5 people, 50, or 150, 200, whatever that number is, become up to 30% more efficient by leveraging Focal Point. Now, if you think about it, let's take a number, let's say 20%. That gives you back a day a week per FTE to do something else more strategic with. You can manage more spend. You can take more categories to markets. You can de-risk yourself. You can help bolster compliance. There are all kinds of things that you could do if the staff that you already have becomes substantially more efficient. Generally speaking, people tie that to accretive spend under management. And when you do that, and you manage more spend, you touch more spend per year, there's a dollar value associated with that that goes on top of what you've already made in terms of ROI with your P2P stack, et cetera. So that being the case, the business case sort of builds itself to say, all right, if we can tackle X amount more spend and we get 5, 7, 8%, whatever more on that dollar that we get, and thereby deliver more savings, which then feeds right back into our P2P system. We're now capturing it. It's on catalog, it's on punch outs, we have forms or whatever. And so it just it's an engine that feeds itself. So those are a couple of the levers. There's more, but a couple that we can really pull on to help you build a business case.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. And thank you as well to everybody who asked. I do want to go ahead and jump to this last slide. Only because we have a QR code here. If you have your phone, go ahead, take it out and scan. It'll send you right to our listing on the Coupa App Marketplace, so you can explore a little bit more. And of course, as Matthew said, always happy to talk, so feel free to reach out to us as well. And yeah, we're super excited to be partnered with Coupa. So thank you guys all for joining and learning a little bit more about this partnership. And we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you so much.